Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Martin Karlovic and I cordially welcome you to today's webinar, What's New in the VAPS, the VPS and the VJS for Dynamics 365 Business Central. As said, I'm Martin and I'm the CEO and one of the owners of NETRONIC Software. I'm your host for this webinar and I'm really glad that you take the time today to join me for the next roughly 30 to 45 minutes so that I can give you an overview about all the stuff that we recently released for our 3 extensions for Business Central. So this is not a webinar in which I introduce our products. So we will run separate introductory webinars in our production scheduling extensions, VAPS, VPS, and also in our project and resource scheduling extension, VJS, in the next couple of, weeks, maybe early next year. So if you're new to our products, then actually this might not be the right webinar today. The purpose of this webinar is just to give people an update about new features and not to introduce the overall products. So if you're interested in getting an overview of the general product, then please watch one of our recorded webinars or join us for one of the upcoming introductory webinars, which we will run very shortly, and watch out for the announcements there. Having said this, you're all on mute today as this is a webinar. But if you have a question, then please feel free to use the GoToWebinar chat pane. I will answer all those questions over the course of the webinar. Whenever I'm on PowerPoint, then I will see your questions immediately. When I'm doing the demo, I will see those questions when I get back to PowerPoint. So just feel free to ask a question and then just give me some time to answer it. But promised, I will answer every question as long as it is related to visual scheduling, of course. And I will answer it during the course of this webinar, or if this is something which I can't answer, where I need like expertise from one of my colleagues, then I will definitely reach out via email after the webinar. So let's start digging into what is new. And first of all, this is the slide that always makes me proud when I run these what is new webinars. We decided for a continuous enhancement and development process for our extensions. So we are now in a rhythm and cadence that we release a new extension every quarter, or that we release a new version of our extension every quarter. So you see now with the VPS and the VJS, we just released the 13th version beginning in June 2019. And with the VAPS, we are now on our 8th version, and we had the first release in January 2020. Actually, I was at Directions EMEA in Milan a couple of weeks ago, where I presented in our session the VAPS. And I said, hey, look, guys, the last time that we met in person at a Directions event, which was in fall 2019, this product even did not exist. And now I could show people the 8th version of it. So this means that if you invest in our products, or if your customers invest in our products, there is really a security of the investment. These are no one-hit wonders, but these are products in which we continuously invest and that we continuously enhance. And every time we come up with a new version, we go to Microsoft again and we submit it for App Source approval. So every version is available on App Source, and it gets approved by Microsoft that it complies with all App Source requirements. And only after the new version is on App Source, we make an announcement and say, hey, we released a new version of the product. So all products are available on App Source, and of course, you can also get them as a runtime package so that you can install them on premises. So we always build for both worlds. We build for the cloud, but we also build for on premises. Whenever we release a new version, we kind of try to incorporate 4 things. Of course, we fix bugs And typically we also do some behind the scenes work, some code cleanup, some code review. We work on stability. We continuously look at performance and try to enhance this. So this is something that you will recognize over time. Then, of course, every new version comes with new features and functions. And since earlier this year, also we try to add events and objects to our extension. So these extensions work on the one hand as out-of-the-box products integrating with the manufacturing module like the VPS and the VAPS, or with the resource planning and jobs module like the VJS. So you can work with them on standard Business Central, and they provide standard out-of-the-box functionality, and we increase this functionality quarter by quarter by quarter. In addition to this, we started to make our extensions extensible so that you, if you are a Business Central developer, if you know AL, you can actually build custom extensions that depend on our extension. So if you have a specific customer with specific requirements, and these specific requirements are not part of the overall product, then likelihood is high that if you talk to us, that we build some events and some objects so that you can build an extension to kind of individualize or customize the user experience with our extension for your customer to fulfill their specific needs. So this is also something that we started to look at, that we give you extended capabilities to extend and enhance our extensions. As said, every new version is sent to Microsoft. We are in the process of releasing one new version per quarter, and typically your ideas are more than welcome. So when I talk about in a couple of minutes about what is coming next, then most of the things that we work on right now are actually ideas that came from you, and some of the ideas came from you very recently. So if you have a specific case, if you have an idea, talk to us. Sometimes we say no, but this is not the standard. Most of the time we see, okay, let's have a look at this, and then we try to implement this either as a new feature function, or we provide the functionality via events and objects. So let's look at the overview in terms of enhancing the events and objects. In the last versions, we focused on the VAPS, where we now provide an event to set a production order line. And it must have a production, sorry, that was a production order routing line. Sorry, my mistake. So that we set a production order routing line to not edible. So the use case there is, I just want to talk about this a bit to give you some context about what you can do now. The use case is, we have a VAPS client who has two different kind of units. So they have basically two different kind of manufacturing branches in one company. And these two different units, they have their own proprietary work centers and machine centers, and they have their own proprietary production orders. However, there are two or three very specific machines, and these very specific machines, these are shared resources between those two units. So what they want to do is that if the unit one schedules some production orders on those shared machines, that somebody working for Unit B does not have the right to change those operations, those production or routing lines that were assigned to those machines by their colleagues from Unit 1. So we want to make sure that whatever Unit 1 schedules on those shared machines cannot be changed, not be edited by somebody who schedules production orders on the same machine but for a different unit, and vice versa. And as this was a, let's say, non-standard requirement, we said, okay, we see that this is a non-standard requirement. However, from a business process point of view, this made a lot of sense to us, and we could figure out that there might be a lot of customers who have like similar processes. So we decided, okay, this is actually something, whenever this specific processes apply, the partners should be able or should be enabled to build an extension based on the VAPS to make sure that whatever unit one does not change the production or the routing lines, the operations that were scheduled on the shared machines, and should not be able to edit what their colleagues scheduled there. So this is the use case why we built this event. In terms of features, we also always try to build some features across all products so that in those cases that customers use multiple products of us or that you as partners present multiple products of us, that you have a unique user experience across the product. So we um, enabled the sorting in the tables, and I will show this in a minute. And we also made a little setting that you can define the tooltip delay. So I will show this based on the VPS, where this quarter we did not have any additional functionality because we had some bigger things that we wanted to achieve in the VJS, plus we had some extended vacation here when it comes to VPS development. When it comes to the VAPS, in addition to the functions that we build to all the products, we now also support the lot size. So if on the routing line you work with lot size, this was actually something that we did not support in the past. If you put in a lot size that is bigger than one there, then we now take this into account in all constellations that you can have. So in parallel routing, in sequential routing, with if there is sent ahead, if there is no sent ahead. So we just take in a reasonable way the lot size that you have on the routing line into account. And then with the VAPS, we this time focused pretty much on filtering because this was a significant demand from our customers. We included a view filter and we included also a base view filter. And with the base view filter, we complement some functionality that can be built with this event. So with the base view filter, we, for example, allow to define a filter that is that is put in place when I create a simulation in the VAPS, so that I always only see, for example, those machine centers or those work centers that I am responsible for, so that I have the possibility to narrow the data that I see from the very beginning. And then when it's loaded, I can still define a view filter to then focus on whatever single production orders or production orders for specific items or whatever. And I will show you both of these filter things in a minute. And then for the VJS, we actually had two big topics. So the one topic was that we consider the absence of employees in the VJS. So when we do the resource planning, and if resources are linked to a business central employee, and if for this employee absence is registered, that we take this to account. So this was the one big topic, and the other was that we also provide support for scheduling job planning lines of the type items. And we made two things. So first of all, even if items, job planning lines of type items are not loaded into the VJS, they are still scheduled if the job task changes. So this is the first thing. And then if you or your customers have items that are really critical for planning and that you want to monitor also visually when you look at the project, then we have the choice now on the item card to say, hey, this is actually an item that I want to see in the VJS if this is part of a job planning line type item. So this is what we built. We shipped this in October. We actually have the ambition to ship a new version before Christmas. So now this webinar actually falls in the middle of what we did before the end of October and what we are doing right now to ship it before Christmas. And with this overview, let's have a look at those products, and let me switch to Business Central. And let me log in again. And let's start. I start with the VPS, where I show you the two generic features that we built for VPS, VJS, and VAPS. So when it comes to the VPS, let's start it. Let me just ignore the filter dialog and just say load or show all. Then we have two new features, the one and two new general features for the VPS. So this is the the production order view, where you see the production orders by their status, and here they are sorted among these statuses by the production order number. So this way of how these data in these table are sorted, this can be changed now. So I can say now here on the right mouse click, sort order, and then I can say, okay, you see it is now scheduled by production order. This is the number and is sending, but I can also say, okay, from production order, I want to change it by whatever, what does make sense, by due date, right? I want to see it by due date, and I want to also have it as sending. Then now it's sorted by due date, and among each category, see now I have the production order with the soonest due date at first. Or if we go, and this is something that you can do here on the right mouse click, or you can do it under administration, setup, actions, configurations, and then you can say sort order, and you can say define how you want to order things within the graphical planning board. Let's go to the capacity view. Right now, this is ordered by work center group, then work center, and then machine center. And I think here it's sorted by machine center number or number. And I can also go here and say, okay, now this is by machine center, and maybe I want to sort it by, I don't know where I have proper data, but I want to sort it by whatever, by unit cost, or by whatever, by shift number, by work shift filter, by some of these things. So you can really flexibly sort now how the data is displayed in both the capacity view and the production order view, and the same can be done in the VJS. So you can sort the table in the project, in the job view, and in the resource view, and the same applies also with the VAPS. The other thing that we built in all three products is what we call the tooltip delay. So the tooltip is this info box that pops up when I hover with the mouse over these bars. And sometimes we have customers who say, okay, if I go here, this is too fast because I'm just browsing and I'm checking if I want to kind of change it or not. And sometimes this comes too fast. And if I hover over it here on drilling 1, I do not see what is on drilling 2, and I cannot make the decision if I want to move it here or not. So sometimes customers tell us, hey, this is too fast. Sometimes they say us, hey, this is too slow. So when I hover over it, I want to get this information immediately. So now under actions, administration setup in the VPS and in the VJS, at the very bottom, so here at the very bottom, there is now the appearance area, and in the appearance you can say the tooltip delay in milliseconds. And for me, the way the speed how it comes up right now is too fast, so I prefer it like having it 1250 or maybe 1400 milliseconds, so that this tooltip really comes up if I stay with the mouse here and then wait, and then it comes up. But if I just hover and want to start dragging and dropping, then I don't want to have this tooltip. So this is something that we build in all the three products, and this is something that you now actually on a user level can define what the kind of the latency of this tooltip is. So if you want to have this additional information fast, or if there should be some delay so that it is clear, hey, now I'm with the mouse here, I want more information, hey, here it is. But if I'm just going there with the mouse to do some drag and drop changes, I don't want to have a tooltip. So this is something that you can configure. I will show you how to set this up in the VAPS in a minute, because in the VAPS we don't have the setup in the VAPS on the VAPS page, but I will show this to you in a minute. Before I will switch to the VAPS, I also want to look at what we built specifically in addition to those two things for the VJS. And hence, let me switch gears and let's switch from the VPS to the VJS. I want to look at all my projects only. So I have also project templates and things like this, but this is not relevant for this demo. And I told you that besides those two general things, we worked on two specific topics. The one is the consideration of employee absence, and the other is that we deal more and better with job planning lines of the type item. So let's talk about the consideration of employee absence first. And here in this view, I'm in the job view, you don't see the resources, right? You just see the job and you see all those jobs, tasks and job planning lines. But if it comes down to a line where it has a resource, then you already see these light red things in the background. In order to understand better what is happening here, let's go actually to the resource view where I have my resource groups and my resources, and you see with these boxes whenever they have a job planning line assigned to it. However, we also see, for example, that here in this week 6 and 7 for John, there is this red area. And remember, in all our visualization, typically the white area means work time, the gray area means non-work time. And here now this is red because there is some absence registered to John via the employee absences. So now let's actually do this. And you see the same for Linda. And also I think for Alan, I have some absences here already. So now let's look what happens if, for example, Mary Mary tells us that she has to go to hospital in week 9. Okay, so first of all, let's look at Mary. So this, I double click on it. So this is the resource card and Mary is resource 140, right? And now here we cannot register any absence. The only thing that we could do is to change like the resource capacity per day. However, when I go to my employees, then we see actually that I set up Mary also as an employee. And when we look at the employee card, you see that under administration, there is a resource number, and this is resource 140. So then this is standard Business Central functionality. This is nothing that we did, but this is standard Business Central functionality. I just tell the system, okay, for this employee, I also have a resource. I set up this employee also as a resource to which I can plan, for example, jobs. Now, what we wanted to do is for Mary to create an absence, like because she's going to hospital for a surgery or for whatever, from the 1st to the 5th of March, or she says she want to go on vacation, whatever. So for an employee, you can actually register absence, right? This is also standard functionality. Sorry for that. Let me go back to the employees. I have Mary here, and for Mary, I want to register absence. So what I want to do is I want to create a new absence entry for Mary. And Mary is supposed to be off from the 1st of March 21 to whatever, the 5th of March, right? This is what we said, March 5, 21. Okay, typing and talking at the same point of time is something that I am not very strong in. Now this should work. Yeah, and she is whatever. She will be off sick, and this is for 40 hours, right? So she is sick that whole week. If this would be on vacation, then the unit of measure for vacation, for my cause of absence vacation is days, but however now we do it like this. And now I defined absence for Mary, right? From the 1st of March to the 5th of March, 21. She is sick because she told us she has to go to hospital. And if I now reload the data, because we changed Business Central data that was not part of the VJS, now we see I created a big issue that she is, I think I have a date issue. Let me quickly check this, what I did here. Sorry for that. Something happened with the dates. First of March to the 5th of March, thick quantity. Let me know it like this. And day, maybe there was an issue here. I'm not sure. Okay, something is broken in my data here. Let me try again. Sorry for that. One more try. Maybe there is an issue with okay, there was an issue with the date format. I have a mixture of the date formats here. So sorry for the confusion. Now it seems to be 1st of March until 5th of March. I do not know why this is now European format. I switched it to English format. Anyway, 5 days. So now you see now the product works as expected. We see, so two things. What we see is we see the absence registered here in the background. And there was this job planning line here scheduled for that Monday, right, for the John Haddock insurance project. And because Mary is now here off sick, and sorry again for the confusion, but this was just a data entry issue. Mary is now off sick. She's not available. So the earliest date that she is available is on that Monday. So the VJS pushed this automatically out. So this job task now will happen here on that Monday, on the 8th of March. And if for whatever reason our customer demands that we provide that we because this is the last, you see this is the last step of a project, if they want to get this finished earlier, then for example I could reassign it from Mary to Mark so that we can do it here where she is in hospital. So this is something that we built in. Yeah, somebody figured out earlier, so Marco figured out earlier that I made a data entry issue with the definition, but you see it works perfectly fine if you're capable of putting in a date properly. Then we see Mary is off sick this week. So she cannot work on any job task. So if you assign her a job task here on that Monday, we know we can't do the job here. The earliest date where we have capacity for Mary is on that Monday. If you want to get it done by earlier, so if you want to get the task done on that Monday, we have to assign it to one of her colleagues. So this is the one thing we did in the VJS, the consideration of employee absence. And again, the linkage between the resource and the employee, standard business central functionality, also the registering of absence that you saw, also standard business central functionality. So we just made better use of functionality that your clients have anyway, or that you have anyway if you are on Business Central. The other thing where we also started to make better use of, and now let me switch back to the job view, is the fact that we also have items. So let me quickly look at this sample project here, where I have 5 steps. So if we start with the project leader, then it goes to technical office, we do some production, we do some installation on site, and project lead. And so now if we look at the installation, at the job task installation, then you see here in the VJS, we have 2 entries. We have a job planning line for Alan. So Alan is supposed to do this installation here in week 13, and he needs 40 hours to this. But we also see that, okay, upon the start of the installation, we need the Contoso conference system, right? So this is a job planning line for an item. Let's look quickly at the project. So I double click the project. Here is the project. We want to look at the job task installation. And if we look at the job planning lines, we see actually that this job task has 4 job planning lines. So there is the 1 job planning line for the resource. We need Alan starting on the 30th of April for 40 hours. And then there are 3 lines for items. So we need an Ethernet cable, we need printing paper, which is printing paper, which are like commodity items, and we need this conference system. So for me, as a scheduler of this project, I say, okay, actually Ethernet cable and printing paper, they are commodities. I don't have to care for them when I schedule my project, right? So they are, I don't want to see them. But this Contoso conference system, this is really crucial to me, and I have to schedule it differently, and I also have keep sight of it that I need this. I, by the way, only see this job planning line here in the job view because the Contoso system, it's an item. There is no resource utilization. So here in this view, when we look at these orange sample projects, you kind of also only see what the people are doing that are working on this project. So this is Alan, but you don't see the Contoso conference system here because we are looking at resources. But in the job view, where we look at the job planning lines, we actually can show this. So now 2 things that are important to know. So first of all, we have under administration the company setup that applies for every user of the VJS in the company. I enabled the employee absence consideration. That is what you saw before. And I said I also want to move items along with job tasks. So now, what is happening? First of all, why do I see the Contoso conference system and why don't I see the Ethernet cable and the printing paper? Well, this has something to do with how I set up these items. Particularly, let me drill down again. When we look at the Contoso conference system, because this is an item that is now showing up in the VJS. When we look at this item, when we look up that item, you see on the item header, there is actually a new field coming from the VJS, and this new field is called show in VJS. And here, this is checked on, right? So I said, I want to see this item in the VJS if I have it as a job planning line of the type item, because this Contoso conference system, if I have it on a project, is really important to me. This flag is not set for the printing paper and for the Ethernet cable because I just don't care when I schedule the project. So this means because this flag is set, I see it here. So now if for whatever reason I change the start date of the job task. So I don't start in week 13, but I start in week 14. And you see, I have some dependencies defined here. So the final step also got moved out. You see, when I change the job task, both the job planning line for the resource changed as expected, and because in the company setup, I defined I want to move items along with the job task. Also, the Contoso system moved. The thing is, because I made this check on the set on the company setup, when I now change this, we also update the dates for the items that are not shown. So now, with making this change, if we go back to the project again and look at the job planning lines, even though we didn't see the Ethernet cable in the printing paper, their planning date has also been updated now with changing the overall job task. So we made two things. We give you the capability to make job planning lines of the type item visible in the job view of the VJS, like you saw with the Contoso conference system. And we give you the capability that when you drag and drop a job task, that all the job planning lines of the type item are moved according to the movement of the change of the timing change of this job task line. So this and the consideration of employee absences have been like bigger things that we have been working on, and both functionalities are available. You can get them from AppSource, and you can get them from our partner portal if you're a partner. And if you're a customer, you can get it from your partner. So now let me quickly change the company actually, and sorry for that. My settings, that's better, and look at the VAPS. And it starts with the VJS because this was the last page that I had opened. But now we spoke about the VJS. Let's look at the VAPS. So with the VAPS, under the VAPS setup, you now also there are a lot of things that you can set up. But here now, under the appearance, you can define the tooltip delay. Okay, so you can say, okay, like I had it before, I want to have the tooltip to come up after whatever 1400 milliseconds. So this is something that you can set up here, and under actions configurations you can do the same sorting like we did before, but you can also do it on the right mouse click when you are in the VAPS. So the other things that we have been working on in the VAPS basically is filtering. So first of all, when you create or when you have simulations that you did in the past, you see there are two new columns to this page. This is show base filter dialog on start. I have checked this off because I don't want to see this dialog all the time. And there's a base filter ID. So if you build a simulation before this new version was created, the base filter ID is 0, and you see I have a few base filters defined. So base view filter. So what does this mean? Let me create a new simulation first, and I say, okay, this is all standard. Simulation means I create a copy of my production orders into a specific view. So I want to include all production orders with firm planned and released, looking a week back, 2 months out. I want to see them in a bespoke view, and here I say, okay, I want to see all. I want to load everything into my schedule. So now you see 36 production orders have been loaded, and if I view the simulation, if I look at, you see base filter, view filter 1 had been applied, and if I look at this, my schedule looks like this. So I have 3 work center groups. I have machining, I have finishing, I have subcontracting, and under finishing, I have assembly, quality control. So I basically loaded all my shop into the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler, into the visual view. So now remember the use case that I had initially, that you have like two different parts of the company, and the one planner is responsible for the one part and the other planner is responsible for the other part. So it might be relevant, or also that sometimes we have the case that people say, okay, I want to plan machining and I don't care for assembly and quality control. Whenever I get it done in machining, this is where I have my bottlenecks, then assembly and quality will just do it. They will just get it done, and if there is a bottleneck, then they can get in temporary worker, or they can run a night shift or whatever. But machining is my bottleneck. I don't care for assembly and quality control. So I don't want to see it in my schedule. Don't want to get disturbed by all of this noise. So in this case, you can actually create a base view filter that you apply when you create the simulation. So in this case, let me create a new simulation, and then I can apply now a base view filter that I defined. So for example, the machining only, this is the one that I will apply, but of course I can say select all list, view list, and then I can create a new one from here. I can edit them. And when I say machining only, and we see how the filter is built, then here I'm just looking at work center. I just want to look at work center group 1, and there are no other filters set. So if I do this, if I apply this filter now, machining only, then we create a simulation. And the important thing is we still load all production orders. So also, although this filter now is applied, it is still a view filter. So we know all the production orders that are loaded, and we also know all the operations that have been assigned to those work and machine centers that we do not see. But when I open the view, then I'm just focused on this work center group now that I defined in my filter. So now I'm only looking at machining. I only see drilling, milling, turning, sewing, welding. I don't see quality control, and I don't see my subcontractor. Nevertheless, the simulation still knows, so the visual scheduler still knows all the other machine centers, and it still knows all the other operations that are on all the other machines. So if I would move stuff here, we would kind of in the background also automatically move the predecessors and make sure we keep the finite capacity scheduler on those work centers. So this is the base view filter. The base view filter is something that is really meant for those people who only have to focus on a part of the shop. Then you can define it, and then you can apply it so that you always have only those jobs or only those work machines that are relevant to you. Once this is loaded, you can still define a view filter. So now I can say, okay, I want to define a new view filter. So I want to create a new view filter that says whatever. Item one specific item. So I want to see all production orders for one specific item, and then I edit the filter. And then I say, okay, I don't want to filter on this. I don't want to filter on this. I don't want to filter on this. I want to filter on production order line. And I want to filter on the production order line on the item number. And I want to see, okay, my item that I'm looking at is only item, I don't know, 5004. I hope I have it in there, by the way. So then I now filter on all my production orders of this one specific item. And you see these are all my production orders for item 5004. So now I just can concentrate on my production orders for item 5004. And likewise, I can define a new view filter. So let me choose another one just for the purpose of building a new one. One specific customer. This might be actually more interesting, and I don't know. I hope that I have some customer sales orders in here. I added the filter. Then this is something I want to filter now on a production order. I want to sort the source, no, not the source number, the source type, maybe, let's see. I don't know if this works actually. Source type, this is sales header. And then there might be another thing. This is not one specific customer, but these are all my production orders that come from sales orders. Let me see, I had one in German here. Yeah, here I'm on a I can see, this is just better. I just filter not on the production order, but I can also filter on sales header. So this is my customer Canon group. So now I'm filtering only to this specific customer. And these are all my choose filter. Okay, then I have no production orders for this specific customer in here, but in general, you see you have the capability to define a view filter on very specific on specific customers, on specific items, whatever. So we have now two things. We have the view filter on which you with which you can quickly condense and condense the view on some of the things that you want to focus, and we have the base view filter on the start where you say, okay, when I load this, I just want to I want to avoid to load stuff that I never need to know or never need to see in my schedule. And this were the things that I wanted to show you that we shipped in October. We built a few more things like the event, like the support of the lot size, but I think they are more like advanced features and maybe not interesting for an overall demo of what has been new. And as I said, we are now in the middle of doing the next version. So we are working on further API enhancements, I think, especially for the VAPS and the VPS. We do something for all products that we save the collapse and expand setting. So let me go back. This is developer's language. Let me, for example, go to the VPS, and if you do something like this, if you say, okay, this is how it comes up, but I want to look at drilling, I want to look at sawing, and for welding, I want to see the histogram, right? So this is something, this is now my view that I configured. And now if I leave the the VPS right now, I have to do these 3 clicks again. So I leave the VPS, I come back to the VPS, and then I have these 3 clicks again, or these 2 clicks that I say, okay, I want to see my drilling machines, I want to see my saw, and I want to see on welding the histogram. So now I had to do this again. And this is what we call the collapse and expand status. And what we do right now is that we kind of save what you did last time when you were in the planning board, and that when you come back, that it opens with the exact same expand and collapse state as it was when you left the application. So this is something that we are working on for all products, and we will enhance the sorting in the table. So this was with the last version, it was the kind of the first way, but we want to include more capabilities there, so that, for example, in the VJS, you can also sort by the job status, for example. In the VAPS, we actually built 3 things that kind of exclusively were not our ideas, but were ideas and requirements from customers. So we will give customers the capability to exclude items from what we call the EMAT calculation. So with the VAPS, you can calculate the earliest material availability date on production order line level. And we give customers the chance to say, okay, this item should not be part of this calculation. So independent if this item is available or not, I don't want if this item is missing, I don't want this to be a restriction to my scheduling. Right now, the VAPS is built on the assumption that there are always machine centers, and we kind of take away this assumption. So with the next version, we allow you to use the VAPS without any machine center. So if you just have work center set up, this will work. And we give you the capability that you can also say this machine center or this work center or these machine centers and this work center or these machine centers and these work centers, they should be treated with infinite capacity, which also can nicely model the case that you say, okay, I just want to focus on bottlenecks, and for the others, I don't care. And then I can also schedule them with infinite capacity because we get it done anyway, and we don't get misleading information about the things to artificial infinite capacity, finite capacity. So this is something that is also this will be interesting, open up interesting use cases that you can model better where your bottlenecks are, because then you can switch on the fly from finite capacity to infinite capacity and see the impact on the schedule. In the VPS, we will come up with some warning symbols and visual alerts in the table part. So let me go back here, if in the VPS there is, here you see there is an overload in welding, in my welding work center. So going forward in this table, you will see a symbol, an alert that tells you, okay, somewhere here is an overload. So we also work on bringing these information, which are now a little bit hidden in this histogram. We will make this information about potential issues in the schedule that we will bring them, we will make sure that they get to the user's attention more immediately. So we'll work with some symbols here to show these kind of issues. And reloading of data in some cases takes rather long right now with the VPS. So this is also something that where we allocate the time on to kind of improve the reload process of the VPS. With the VJS, we will work on an extended tooltip configuration so that you can also build a customized tooltip for the resource group and resources. And there are some, we will do some redefinition how resource filters are used in combination with loaded job planning lines. So there, it is always tricky if you have a job loaded and then filter on resources. So we made a lot of lessons learned when we built some resource filters on VAPS and VPS, how we should then deal with the production orders. And we now bring this knowledge from the production products to the job and resource scheduling product. And this is something that we work on. We plan to have this available and send this to AppSource validation before Christmas, so that it's also available before Christmas. So that's the current plan. We are rather optimistic that we get this done in time. And with this, I'd like to conclude the webinar. I open it up for questions. So if you have a question now, please ask. And if you have a question afterwards, then drop me an email or send the question to me via LinkedIn. And if we are not connected by now, then please send me a request to connect, because I'm really happy to engage with all of you, although you have been on mute right now. But this was just for the sake of the organization of the webinar. If there is no question, then I would like to thank you cordially for your attention. Stay safe and healthy, and maybe see you next week when I'm running a webinar about work center scheduling with the VPS. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.